Katie Perrinovich, age 42, was married to Tom Perrinovich, age 48. The couple had 3 children, 7-year-old Claire, 5-year-old Anna, and 3-year-old Matthew. Claire went to St. Christopher's Primary School in Airport West. Anna was to begin at the same school in just a few weeks. Katie was employed at Glenroy Physiotherapy but quit her job in October of 2020. She was a practicing physiotherapist. Tom Perrinovich was a technician with Ford Motors. The family lived in their home on Burgess Street, in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, capital of the Australian state of Victoria. It has a population of over 5 million citizens. On January 14 in 2021, Tom Perrinovich went out to grab some groceries. He returned home at approximately 1 p.m. and found his son suffering from stab wounds in the kitchen. He immediately called emergency services. While paramedics were desperately trying to revive his severely injured son, he walked into another room of the home to find his 2 daughters and wife dead from stab wounds. The knife used in the stabbings was found in the home near Katie Perrinovich's body. Mr. Perrinovich was arrested by attending police members, and denied involvement in the deaths of his family members, said Assistant Coroner Nicholas Nye. He went on to say, he told investigators that he had left the premises earlier to go to the local shops to purchase food before returning home, and locating the body of his son in the kitchen. Detective Acting Sergeant Luke Farrell from the Homicide Squad said their investigation found no history of family violence, nor any involvement with social services. He said, quickly it was evident from a homicide perspective that the responsibility for all 4 deaths was with the mother of the deceased. The main focus of my inquiry to date has been around mental health treatment to Miss Perrinovich in the month leading up to the deaths. Homicide Squad investigators have formed the preliminary view that the 42-year-old woman is responsible for all 4 deaths, and on completion of their investigation, a report will be provided for consideration of the coroner. Coroner Audrey Jameson reported that all 4 victims had upper body injuries consistent with knife wounds. Detectives revealed that during their investigation they discovered that Katie Perrinovich was being treated for mental health problems for months leading up to the murder-suicide. Investigators also revealed that 3 months prior to the killings she left her job at the clinic due to depression. She had worked at that location for over 7 years. A friend of Katie Perrinovich told investigators that she was notably withdrawn in the weeks leading up to the deaths. Marie Groves, a neighbor, had become close to her as their children often played together. She said Mrs. Perrinovich attended a birthday party recently at her home and was unusually quiet. She said, she was more withdrawn than I've seen her ever in the past. Lee, a team manager at the West Meadows Paramedics Unit, put flowers at the scene in remembrance of the children. He told reporters that 5 of his paramedics responded to the horrific tragedy. He said, the loss of 3 kids deeply affects everyone including our staff. This has been an incredibly heart-wrenching experience for all concerned. He continued, it's not a normal thing, yes we have distressing elements to our role, but incidents like this are rare. Neighbors and friends left tributes in front of the family's Melbourne home. Cards and flowers are a stark reminder of the tragedy that unfolded on that dreadful day. Akon Guode, age 35, survived many tragedies in her life. She married in South Sudan as a teenager. Her husband was a soldier in the rebel army of South Sudan. She lived through watching her husband be killed in war-torn Sudan, and being brutally raped. At that time she had 2 children. Being a widow, her Christian and African tradition would not allow her to ever marry outside of the family again. She would always be a member of her late husband's family. Part of the tradition was that she would marry one of her late husband's brothers, which she did. She became pregnant again by her second husband, which was her late husband's brother. In 2006, she would make the drastic decision to walk to Uganda with her 3 children in tow. She foraged for food along the way. She was granted a global special humanitarian visa. She arrived in Sydney and stayed with another brother-in-law until 2008, when she moved to Melbourne, where the cost of living was much lower. She moved in with her late husband's cousin, Joseph Manyang, his wife and their 3 children. Eventually Manyang assisted Guode with helping her move into a rented home of her own with her children. Over time, she began a secret affair with Manyang. In 2009 she gave birth to another child, a daughter she named Aluel. She gave the child her late husband's last name. In 2010 she gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. She named the twins Hanga and Madit. At this point Manyang's wife became suspicious of the affair and went to Guode's home. She beat on the door and screamed insults and threats as the family hid inside. She also confronted Guode at a shopping center, screaming and making threats. After the affair, Manyang moved out of the home with his wife and into a home of his own, and would visit each family once a week. Guode received public assistance through Centrelink payments, and at times her cousin would help a little. In 2012 she worked for a year at a family daycare. However, her money was stretched thin due to her sending money back to Africa to help her parents and extended family members. In 2013 she became pregnant again. Right before giving birth to the baby, she was overpaid by Centrelink. This caused her benefits to stop. She was forced into a payment plan to pay back the overpayments. This strained her financially. She was barely making ends meet. Despite the stress Guode was under, her children were well cared for. The older children were going to school, and did their homework on time. On December 21 in 2013 Guode went into labor with her 7th child. During the delivery of the baby she nearly hemorrhaged to death. At Christmas, she brought home her new baby boy. She named him Bol. Postnatal checks showed the baby and mother were doing fine. However, she did complain from headaches and dizziness. Slowly she began having emotional and psychological issues. She slept most of the day, and could no longer do the normal routine household chores. She also started becoming distant from her children. Her oldest child, a senior in high school, picked up the slack to help her mother. When Bol was 6 months old he was given a paternity test, which revealed Manyang was his father. At first Manyang helped some, by visiting and offering some financial assistance. However, over time, with 2 jobs he lost interest. He would occasionally call to check on his children but rarely visited. The oldest child's grades began dropping. One of her teachers noticed she was distracted, and showing up late for school. The teacher investigated and noticed the girl was running the entire household. She was cooking, cleaning, washing all the clothes, and doing all of the household shopping. She was also managing her little sister's diabetes. The teacher attempted to assist by suggesting a support group for Guode. However, she refused the help. She feared she would be stigmatized with being mentally ill. On April 8 in 2015 Guode was seen speeding in her vehicle near an outer western Melbourne suburb called Wyndham Vale, near Lake Gladman. She abruptly stopped her vehicle on the side of the road. A witness drove past and noticed Guode sitting over her steering wheel with her face in her hands. Her children were in the back being rowdy. Moments later, Guode pulled out and suddenly made a U-turn, driving her SUV into the water. She was able to get out, then stood and watched as the car sank. Witnesses called emergency services, while some worked frantically to save the 4 children from the car. One witness tried desperately to break the window with his fist and elbow, but it would not budge. He yelled for a rock. A man on the shore tossed his steel-toed boot to him. He was finally able to break the window. He was able to unbuckle one child from their seat. Rescuers begged Guode to tell them if she had any more children in the vehicle with her, but she stood in silence, gazing ahead. Ball, Madit, and Hanger could not be saved, but her 6-year-old daughter miraculously survived. Guode was arrested at the scene. She was vague about what had transpired. She claimed she didn't even know where the lake was. She said she went to Coles to buy some milk. On the way, she took the children to the park. On the drive back home she said she became very dizzy and missed her turn, and went straight ahead. She claimed to have no idea how she ended up in the water. After a thorough investigation, and many witnesses, authorities determined the crash was intentional and charged her with 2 counts of filicide, and 1 count of infanticide, and 1 count of attempted filicide. Police discovered through video evidence that Guode drove by the lake 5 times before she made a sharp turn and drove straight into the water. And along the shore of the lake sit 6 houses with security cameras. All revealed shocking footage of a mother driving past numerous times, gathering her courage, then driving straight into the water. Several eyewitnesses testified to seeing Guode drive purposely into the lake. And many spotted her right before she drove into the water. She was very upset and crying. Infanticide is a charge applied to women who kill their biological children where the mother has serious mental health problems in relation to childbirth, and only comes into effect when the child is under 2 years of age. A key witness testified that Guode believed that her lover's wife used witchcraft, and put a spell on her, which caused the car to go into the lake. The witness also testified that she overheard Guode say she would rather take her own life and that of the kids than see them live with her lover, Joseph Manyang, and his wife. 1-year-old Ball, and twins Madit and Hanger's funeral was held in April of 2015. Guode was allowed to attend her children's funeral. The children's father, Joseph Manyang, also attended the funeral. In 2017, Guode pled guilty and was sentenced to 26 years in prison. After hearing the sentence, Guode grabbed her chest and claimed to be having chest pains. After the sentence, Guode's lawyers went to the Victoria Court of Appeal. In March of the same year, by a 3-2 ruling, it overturned the Court of Appeal's finding and ordered the sentencing appeal be heard again. The Court of Appeal took mitigating factors into consideration. The judges weighed her mental health, and the birth of her last baby, which led to a traumatic emergency surgery. She was raising 8 children, all on her own with very strenuous financial problems. She was also socially isolated from her community due to her affair with a married man. The court also took into consideration her earlier years were scarred with the horrors from the war in her native country. She witnessed her husband's death by militia, and the violence she lived through in the aftermath. The court considered all the evidence, and decided in her favor. The court felt with all the circumstances this reduced her moral culpability. The court acknowledged Guode strapped her children into their car seats, knowing they could not swim, but found her mental state was severely compromised. They felt she was not capable of making rational decisions, therefore she should be granted a level of mercy and justice. The High Court set aside the sentencing. She was resentenced to 18 years with the possibility of parole after 14 years. It's a normal part of life to feel down once in a while. However, people with depression may feel down for weeks or even months on end. Depression can strike anyone, at any time. It isn't age restricted. It cannot be ignored, and most can't just get over it. It's a serious condition that can manifest with many symptoms, such as loss of appetite, excessive tiredness, problems sleeping, and even physical pain. Some extreme cases can lead to suicidal thoughts. It's critical to see a professional if you or someone you know is suffering with depression. It can be managed with therapy, and sometimes medication. Katie Perrinovich stabbed her 3 children to death, then took her own life. She was deeply depressed after the COVID lockdown. It's sad that her husband did not see something seriously wrong, and try to get her help. Sadly, the children paid the ultimate price. It's heartbreaking to think the last thing these beautiful children saw was their mother attacking them with a knife. Akon Guode drove her car into the lake, murdering 3 of her children. She was overwhelmed with the struggles of being the single mother of 7, and being financially strapped. She was found guilty of 2 counts of filicide and 1 count of infanticide, and sentenced to 26 years. Later her sentence was drastically reduced on appeal. The courts determined she deserved mercy. Guode undoubtedly lived a troubled life for many years. However, she did not give any mercy to her children when she drove them into the lake. When someone murders children, it's inexcusable. There should never be mercy when children die at the hands of the ones they trust the most. When a parent can murder their own children, it is the worst kind of betrayal. Children love and trust their parents, and should be safe with them. It's sad when a parent can do such horrific things to their innocent children. When a parent murders their children and then commits suicide, it's typically because they are having mental issues and want to die, and see their children as possessions. Nobody has the right to take another life. Children are not an extension of the parent, nor a possession. They have their own identity, and have every right to grow up. May the victims in both cases rest in peace. That concludes this episode. Keep your eye out for the next volume, coming soon. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.
Want to help support the channel you love, and get something in return? Simply purchase some Elizabeth's Chronicles merch. We have coffee mugs, t-shirts, sweatshirts, cozy blankets, beach towels, phone covers and more. Use the coupon code EC10OFF4U, and get 10% off your order. The link to order is in the description area below this video. Thanks for helping Elizabeth's Chronicles continue to make the videos you love.